welcome to another episode of Some of Our Parts, the podcast where two friends talk about the movies that add up to make us who we are. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Jim. So, Lindsay, what did you pick for us this week?
Well, since it is spring and it is, as of this past week, baseball season, I picked a movie I grew up watching about baseball, A League of Their Own from 1992.
Oh, excellent choice. Excellent choice. So, one of my favorite movies. And for those who know Lindsay and I, you all be able to look back and see that at some point. So,
Yes, we do Halloween costumes together every year, and our one of our most recent ones was from A League of Their Own. So this is one, we share in common. But yeah, I think for me, like I grew up obviously like a girl playing sports. I have like parents who are coaches who coached softball. My dad played baseball. So this is one we watched a lot when I was a kid. It's one I still like whenever it's on TV, we'll watch it. I didn't see it in theaters because
hmm
I was only 2 when it came out, but it's one that I can distinctly remember watching like over and over again. Like I remember one time my dad coached a high school girls travel softball team, and I was like 10 years old and I was their bat girl, so I got to travel with them to all their tournaments, and I had like a
oh
uniform
gosh,
helmet and stuff, which was very cool because I was like 10 and they were all like 16-year-old girls, so I was like,
yeah.
oh, like hanging out with the high school girls. But I remember like we did a bus trip to Montreal for one once, and we watched this on the bus.
Oh gosh. Okay. Now, as a back girl though, did you have a uniform that you wore and
Mm-hmm.
everything for the
Mm-hmm.
team? Well, that's
Yep.
cool. Did
I had a
they?
uniform. I
Did
had
it
my own
look like
helmet. Yeah. Yeah. It
look
was
like
the
the
same.
Peaches?
No, no. I looked like the Lakeshore Lightning, but I looked like the other players. But no, we wore shorts because they actually are, I think, as they say in the movie, they're like, you could actually slide in shorts. Unlike we see some of the consequences of sliding in skirts in the
Ooh,
movie, and it
ooh.
does not look nice. So yeah, no, the we wore shorts and tall socks. The tall socks were there. Also helmets. I always forget that like early baseball was played without helmets, and I'm like, God, the traumatic brain injuries these people got. It's
Exactly. Yeah.
stressful.
Now, did you? But you had your uniform was exactly like the rest of the players on the team then.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Well,
Yep.
that's cool. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Um, did you play softball or baseball as
Yeah, I played.
organized?
Yeah. I played like t-ball and baseball when I was little, and then all through middle school I played softball.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, I played second base. I tried to pitch for a
Oh,
time, but that was not my calling.
mm.
I hit a lot of people. In my defense, some of them were crowding the plate. If they weren't so close to the plate, they wouldn't have gotten hit. I
Exactly. I mean,
did have a tendency to pitch inside.
you got to give them a little chin music every now and then just to keep them honest.
Exactly, and also move out of the way.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
no,
Quit
pitching was
crowding
not
the
for
plate,
me.
people.
Second base though, I was good at playing second base. And occasionally
Okay.
when
How
they
was your
wanted
arm?
to, it was good. It was good. I mean, I didn't have to throw that far, right? Like from second base to first base, especially
You
on a
didn't nail
softball.
anybody at home?
No, no, I don't think that ever really happened. I did love this girl that I grew up playing soccer with played shortstop, so I did always love the opportunity for a double play. That was always
Oh,
very fun
okay.
to me. So, but I was
Good.
okay. Like I think I played third base sometimes like at practice, and I could, cross the field, throw it to first.
How was your stick?
I think I was good. I was good at hitting. I usually got on base.
Okay. Good. Okay.
hmm Yeah, and I was pretty fast too, so I was good at base running. But it's harder to steal in soft. I didn't want to slide. I was afraid of sliding, so I just would book it wherever I was running. I'm just gonna get there on speed. I'm getting there upright. I was scared. I was scared of getting like a big old raspberry on my leg, so
Well,
I wouldn't
as we
slide.
see later on,
Exactly.
yeah,
I
yeah,
refused to
they look
slide.
painful.
I was like, I think I'm fast enough. I'm okay. And like softball, the field's not as big, so you don't have as much ground to cover. but you don't get
Oh,
to
okay.
lead. You can't move until the ball's released. Whereas like in baseball, you can take, lead off the
Oh,
base at any time
yeah.
basically. So like in softball, you can lead as soon as the ball's released, and then if it's a wild pitch or whatever, then you just keep going to steal.
Okay.
But
But you
so
can't lead off until the ball's released.
correct.
Okay. You can't take that big lead off.
No, no. But I enjoyed softball. It was although I kept being like, I want to play softball, and then when the time would come for it to start, I was like, why did I sign up for softball? But I did enjoy. I always had sunflower seeds in the pocket of my softball shorts, which was great because it's the only sport I've ever played that I could like actively eat during it. You're on base,
Mm-hmm.
just munch on some
Yep.
sunflower seeds. That
There
was
you go.
that was a perk of it for me. And now, I haven't played in a while, but I've gotten more interested in the Orioles, especially
Mm-hmm.
the past few years because they've actually been good. So it's baseball season's fun. Like my family gets like ticket packages, so we're always going. Usually to the games where they give stuff away. That's my mom's favorite ones to pick. So I
Well,
have
if
I
you're going to
have a
go, you might as
host
well
of
get something out of it.
right. I have a host of Orioles merchandise now in my home. But yeah. And I think I always appreciate again, like as a girl playing sports, I always liked movies about like women playing sports,
Sure.
right? Because it's like, well, men playing sports, something new and different, blah. But like women playing sports, I'm like, yeah, it's like me. Look at us killing it.
Exactly.
So
And
that was
especially
always
as
like
professional
inspirational.
baseball players.
Yes, yes. And like really good ones. Like Dottie Hinson in
Mm-hmm.
this movie is like like really good at baseball. Like the moment where she catches the pop up and like does a split, like what a moment. An iconic moment. And I think what's interesting about this movie too is that it's like it's the 1940s, so they're still like, but these are like nice lady women. They're
Mm-hmm.
pretty and they still pour people coffee and wear
Right.
makeup
Yeah.
and skirts and stuff while they're also like, kind of knocking themselves out playing baseball.
Well, they talk about playing double headers in 100-degree heat and
Mhm.
traveling overnight to play the next day, and being dog tired and stuff, and
Mhm.
just trying to make it in, trying to make the league a growing entity. So,
Yeah.
well, it's a
Absolutely.
good choice. Yeah, especially like coming out of Women's History Month and leading into baseball season. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it is this league was real for people who don't know. So the movie is a fictional version of this, but like the league did exist. So it was called the All American Girls Professional Baseball League, and it was founded by Philip Wrigley. So in this movie, you'll see. So Wrigley owned the Cubs, I guess, who play in Wrigley Field, but like
yeah.
he also owned like Wrigley Gum, and so the parallel in this movie is Harvey, who has like Harvey chocolate bars, but he is the owner of the Chicago baseball
Hmm.
team. So it's like
Right.
um, it's a direct parallel, but it was in 1943. And as you see in the movie, basically the idea is like a bunch of professional baseball players from the MLB, or I don't even know if it was the MLB at that time, but professional men's baseball players were being drafted and joining because we're in World War II at that time. So um,
Hmm.
the owners are losing money, and they're like, well, we need something else to sort of fill this gap. And they came up with the idea to have a girls' league. It's also funny; they're adults, but they call them girls. The league is called. It's not the
Yeah,
All
it's not a
American
women's
Women's.
league.
It's the Girls Professional Baseball League. So that's actually and the team names I think are real, like the Rockford Peaches, South
The
Bend, Kenosha
racing.
Racine Bells, yeah, Kenosha Comets, South Bend Blue Sox. I think it grew. It existed for a few years. It kept going for a
Uh
few
huh.
years. But initially it was just those 14. So the Rockford Peaches, Racine Bells, Kenosha Comets, and South Bend Blue Sox. But then there's some other ones, and they're all kind of in that area. So they're in sort of like Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana. So that kind of like Midwest, sort of around. Lake Michigan area.
Yeah, it was like centered mostly in the Midwest, correct? From what
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because even when it expanded to like more cities in Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. So it was just like right there. But I guess it's like they got to be able to ride on a bus to get there. So
Well, then they talked a little bit about also. I was reading a little back history that they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to travel very far because of the gas rationing.
hmm
So there wasn't. Everybody was rationing gas was being rationed gasoline, so
yeah.
they couldn't take long trips. Which really, when you think about it, back then it was pretty remarkable that they were allowed to do that. With gasoline being in such short supply. So.
Yes, absolutely. And so part of what this movie was drawn from a documentarian named Kelly Cardellli. His mother had played in this league, and he made a documentary
Oh.
about it, also called A League of Their Own. And then the screenwriting team, Lowell Gans and Babalu Mandel, which is quite a name. It makes me think of I Love Lucy. But yeah, so Lowell Gans and Howie Mandel, they adapted it into the screenplay. They have written as a team a bunch of other things. They wrote Splash, City Slickers, Fever Pitch, Tooth Fairy, Parenthood, Night
Mm,
Shift.
okay.
So they wrote a bunch of things. And then this movie is directed by someone we have met before on our podcast a couple of times, Penny Marshall, the late great Penny Marshall. So I think her OG credit is Laverne on Laverne and Shirley, an
Hmm.
inspiration to me as a fellow person whose name starts with L. I did at the time when I was a kid and I watched Laverne and Shirley on Nick at Night ask my mom if we could put L's on all of my shirts like Laverne, and my mother said no, but she did buy me a shirt with an L on it.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but Penny Marshall, in addition to acting, we saw her make a brief cameo in Hocus Pocus, for example, with her brother Gary Marshall, who's in this movie. She directed a lot of movies. She directed Jumpin' Jack Flash. She directed Big, Renaissance Man, The Preacher's Wife, which we talked about before, Awakenings, Riding in Cars with Boys, several other things. So, and obviously this movie. So, a lot of great things, I think, that
Oh,
are
yeah.
pretty memorable.
Well, talented family, don't you
Hmm.
think? I mean,
Yeah.
between her and her brother, so Gary, who's also in the movie. So,
Yeah.
spoiler alert.
Yes. Yes. He is the Mr. Wrigley stand-in in the movie. But this movie has a lot of some big stars in it. Uh, Obviously, I think the biggest ones are Tom Hanks and Gina Davis, but we also get Madonna, Rosie O'Donnell, John Lovitz, Bill Pullman,
Hmm.
David Strathairn. We get a little Taya Leone cameo. She doesn't have any
Yeah,
lines,
I
but we see her.
I know, and I was surprised when I saw that, and I thought I didn't know who that was, and I looked it up in the thing that it was her. So before she came into her own. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely a good cast, and yeah, I think it's just a fun movie. It's like it's funny, but it's also like heartfelt and kind of sad too. And
Hmm.
there's like lots of good storylines with like sibling dynamics plus this sort of like opportunities for women and then the war and like so there is a lot happening here. And I think, well, perhaps one of the most I would say like one of the most famous lines like in movies. Like I think there is a line
Oh,
in this movie that like people quote all the
yep.
time.
Hmm. Agreed.
Like it's it's well known. There are other really good quotes too, but like that one is the one.
It is. There's it's in what 100,000 memes probably throughout
Probably. The amount of
you
people who
know
have said this in their lives, probably. Like so many,
and not
so many
and you just substitute something else for
for
what
baseball.
there's
Yeah.
for
We'll
baseball.
get
Yeah.
there. We'll get to the
Yeah.
specifics, but yeah, it's a good one. So, is this something that you like saw in theaters or
Saw it in the movie theaters.
Hmm.
Big fan of Tom Hanks.
Hmm.
He was, doing a lot of stuff, big and Splash which is, Bachelor Party, which I don't know if you've ever seen that, but that was like one of his earlier things. And he came out of TV.
Hmm. Was it Bosom
It was
Buddies?
Bosom Buddies, yeah. So and Tom Hanks was I just thought he was one of the funniest people that I've ever seen. And then when they did Splash with him and John Candy, it was just, oh my God, that was
Mm.
just hilarious. But anyway, yeah, so we saw this. And then, yeah, so it was and he played sort of opposite of what had always played. He wasn't the funny guy, he wasn't the funny person or not even really the lead,
Hmm.
if that makes sense, and I mean, he was the big name, but, the movie's focus wasn't on him,
Yeah.
which so I enjoyed that. I enjoyed
Yeah.
the change, and I think it showed his range as an actor.
Yeah. Because I think I also always think of Tom Hanks as like more of a nice guy. And in
Hmm.
this movie, he is not.
No, and yeah, he's just yeah, like I said, he's just so opposite of what he'd always been. He's always maybe not always a smart aleck and stuff, but he was, just like you said, he was a nice person, or he had good intentions and stuff. But in this one, not at all. So he's not an evil person, but he's not the nice Mr. Goody Two Shoes.
Definitely. I mean, he's drunk the majority of the times we see him on the screen in this movie.
He does have some of the best lines, though. Him and John Lovitz
Yes.
throughout the movie, I think. In addition to the memorable one, there are some, and as we get into the movie, a couple of the ones that I resonate with me from Tom, and then John
Yes.
Lovitz. So,
Yes. So, well, I guess we can kind of get into it now then.
okay, all right.
So the movie starts, it kind of starts and ends in like the quote unquote like present time, which is like late 80s, early 90s. Like the present time that the movie was made. Um, because it's well, we'll get there. So we first meet Dottie, who's the main character. So she's played in the bulk of the movie takes place in 1943. She's played then by Gina Davis. She's played by a different actress in this part because she's older. The actress's name is Lynn Cartwright. So she plays older Dottie. And I think this is actually like her most well-known thing is playing like older Dottie. But actually she looks remarkably like Gina Davis.
For the longest time, I thought it was Gina Davis in makeup. I honestly
Same,
did.
same.
Up until probably 10 years after the movie came out, that
Hmm.
I thought for sure that was her in aged makeup. But I found out you're right. It
Yeah.
was. And by the way, just Lynn Cartwright as an old aficionado of old B movie horror movies, Wasp Woman. You ever want a starring role in Wasp Woman? So just
Well,
saying.
well. Anyways, we meet her. We don't really know what's going on, but she's packing for something. Her daughter gives her an old catcher's mitt, and she's like, I don't want to go to this thing. And her daughter's like, you gotta go. Um, and it's interesting too because she has two grandsons who are playing basketball together, and she talks to the older one and tells him to give the younger one a chance, which I think we'll kind of see sort of where that comes from as the movie unfolds. But then we learn she's going to Cooperstown in New York, which is where the Baseball Hall of Fame is, and they are inducting the members of the All American Girls Baseball League into the Baseball Hall of Fame. So all of the women that played in that league are kind of having a reunion here at this time. And then we go back in time to 1943. So we are in World War II, and as I mentioned, like a lot of baseball's, we see some kind of newsreel basically of baseball's
Hmm.
biggest stars are joining the armed forces. So, Joe DiMaggio and like whoever are joining the military to go fight. And the owners of the teams are trying to figure out what to do. So they're convened by again, Mr. Harvey, who owns Harvey's Chocolate, who is again sort of the stand-in for Mr. Wrigley of Wrigley's Gum and the Chicago Cubs. So they're trying to figure out what to do, and he has one of the guys who works for him is named Ira Lowenstein, who he kind of tasks with leading this, and their eventual plan is this All American Girls Professional Baseball League. So Ira Lowenstein is going to be the general manager. So Mr. Harvey is played by Gary Marshall. He's again the candy bar mogul and the founder of the league. Gary Marshall is was the brother of Penny Marshall. He makes cameos in movies like this. He was in Hocus Pocus with her, but I think he's much more well known for his like directing and creating. So he like created Happy Days, and then
Hmm.
the spin-offs from that, one of which was Laverne and Shirley. He directed movies like Overboard, Runaway Bride, Princess Diaries. He developed The Odd Couple for television, Beaches, Pretty Woman, The Other Sister, lots of
Oh, that was
things.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. He's in a ton of movies. He made and starred in a bunch of movies and television shows. So, like, again, very talented family, kind of very significant mark on pop culture, I think.
Yes.
Ira Lowenstein is played by David Strathairn. We met him in We Are Marshall. He played the president of the university, but he's
Hmm.
also, I think, kind of famously in Good Night and Good Luck. He plays Edward R. Murrow in that movie. He's in the Bourne movies as CIA director. He was in the movie Lincoln, so another really good actor that's in a lot of things. So they have this idea to start this league, and then cut to Willamette, Oregon. So this is sort of like a dairy farming town, and two sisters are playing on a team representing the dairy. Their names are Dottie and Kit, Dottie Hinson and Kit Keller. So Dottie, we learn a little bit later, but she's married. Her husband is deployed. He's fighting in Europe. And Kit is her younger sister. So, and we get their dynamic like immediately because Kit's about to go bat. Dottie is like, stop swinging at the high ones. And she's like, I like the high ones. Dottie calls her a mule. Kit calls her a nag. Dottie was right. Kit
Kit
goes for the
can't
high ones
hit
and
the high
can't
ones.
can't hit them. Can't hit them. And then Dottie goes and she's really good. And like all the people in the stands are, as they're leaving, Kit's leaving, and they're like, hey, man, good thing Dottie could save you. So she's kind of constantly reminded of how good Dottie is. And she's clearly like, as they are walking back to their family home, she's resentful of being of this, right? It's like, this is Dottie, and this is Dottie's sister, is like
Right.
the vibe.
Exactly.
So, and you can tell also that they are like always in competition because they're even racing. Like their mom tells them to go do chores, and they're even racing to go do that, to go like milk
Yeah.
cows.
To see who could get there, yeah, the fastest. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, can you let me walk faster than you? Well,
Hmm.
yeah, and then they don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we meet Ernie Capadino. He strolls into the barn as they're milking cows, and he is a scout for the girls' professional baseball league. Ernie Capadino is played by John Lovitz. He we have met him in he was definitely a voice in Eight Crazy Nights because he is a fellow Saturday Night Live alum like Adam Sandler. But he's been on a ton of television programs and movies. The Critic, The Simpsons, Seinfeld, Friends, News Radio. He was in the movie Rat Race, Big, The Producers, just a ton of things.
And
The
it has a
Wedding
very
Singer.
distinctive voice.
He does. Yes. I love him in The Wedding Singer. He's only in it for like a couple minutes, but he's very funny in those couple minutes, which is
Oh,
kind of the
okay.
performance he gives here. He's clearly not a country boy, Mr. Capadino. He's not into the farm life, but he wants Dottie to come try out for the league. And Kit's really jazzed about it. And he's like, "Oh no, like not you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just want her." And
I
Dottie
want the one who
doesn't.
can hit the ball.
Right. Dottie doesn't want to go. But Kit really, really does. And eventually, Mr. Capadino is like, okay, you can come, but only if your sister comes. And Kit's kind of like begging Dottie, like, come on, like I need to like Kit wants to get out of Willamette, Oregon. She does not want to
Yeah.
be on the farm. Dottie seems pretty content, like she's waiting for her husband to come home and then they're gonna settle down there. Kit is like, I need to get out of here. And Dottie does eventually relent, which we learn as the train the next day is pulling away and they run to catch up with it. Meanwhile, Ernie's on the train, who's sitting with a guy telling him about his job. And Ernie's like, I'm trying to do my like John Lovitz. If I had your job, I'd kill myself. Let me see if I can go find a pistol. And he's just like talking crap about this man. Why is it always me? I'm too nice. Um, but they run down the train, toss their suitcases on, and climb up in like nice outfits, in their nice lady
And
traveling clothes.
John also says, at least they can run.
Yeah,
You know?
at least they can run. Uh, they make one stop, so they're heading to Chicago where all this is taking place, but they have to make one stop before then in Fort Collins, Colorado. And they are checking out Marla Hooch there, who is taking some batting practice in a gym, and she's a slugger. Um, she's clearly and she's a switch
Killing
hitter. She's a switch hitter too, because she hits all these balls, and then he's like, "All right, lefty," and she switches and keeps hitting the ball. Um, and then when she's done and she comes over to actually meet Ernie Cappuccino, he's like, "Oh God." She's clearly very shy. She's kind of like always sort of her face is sort of turned down and like she's got a curtain of hair sort of covering most of it. And like she looks like fine. But everyone acts like
Look,
she's like the creature from the Black Lagoon when they see her.
I know Ernie's double take when he sees her. He's like, like looking at the Bride of Frankenstein or something. So
Exactly. And he doesn't want her because she's not pretty. It's kind of sad because the dad's like, she's a single dad, right? And he's like, it's my fault because it's just me and I raised her like a boy, but give her a
right,
chance. And I think once again, like Dottie and Kit are like, because they're there watching this too, and they're like, are you for real? And I think
yeah,
they
she's
they
good.
put some they put some pressure on him too. But she gets to go. She's a very sweet goodbye with her dad. And she's like, who's going to take care of you? And he's like, I'll be fine. You get to go play baseball. Like, this is what you want to do.
Yeah,
So, yeah, they all go to Chicago, and Ernie Cappuccino drops them off at the ballpark and is like, all right, go try out.
Harvey Field, right?
Harvey
Instead of Wrigley
Field.
Field, it's
Yeah,
Harvey Field. Yeah.
of course.
So,
And they're like, oh, you're not staying? And he's like, I think you remember this line. Well, first he says, like, you're country kids, don't eat the grass.
right, yeah. And then he tells them they keep going to work. Aren't you going to stay? He goes, no. He goes, I got things to do. He goes, I got to go home. He goes, you try out, play, run. He goes, and then he walks off and he goes, God, I hate it when they get attached to me like that. And he's so not attachable. That's the funny
Right.
thing, He
He's
just
so
goes on and on
unpleasant.
about how lovable he is and how people just flock to him, and it's like he's such a jerk.
Mm. So we start to meet some of the other players. So there's a big tryout. There's 100 spots, or there's 100 people there, and only 64 spots. So there's four teams that are each going to take
Right.
16 girls. So we meet Doris and May, who are two friends from New York. Doris is played by Rosie O'Donnell, who you might recognize from the Rosie O'Donnell show from the 90s. Uh, it's Donald Trump Hates Her. She was also in Sleepless in Seattle, Now and Then, the Flintstones live action movies, Harriet the Spy, so lots of things. May is played by Madonna, who you know as the singer Madonna. She's been in
Yeah,
other
I was gonna
movies,
say.
um, not a ton, but like Evita, Desperately Seeking Susan, Dick Tracy, The Next Best Thing, stuff like that. But like, she's Madonna, like, the Madonna.
The
So
Madonna. Yeah.
they're there messing around, and you can see like Dottie's kind of looking at them, and they're kind of doing that, like, "What are you looking at?" And throw the ball at her, and she catches it with her bare hand. And they're like, oh,
Oh well, maybe some of them are going home. It's like,
yeah.
and Rosie's like, hey, how'd you do that? It's like,
She just
sort of
got off
that
the
New
ball.
York vibe.
Yeah. She's from, they say she's from Staten Island. So she's definitely got that
Oh,
vibe.
okay.
It's funny too, because also at this time there's a lady on the radio, this like I think etiquette lady who's talking about like the masculinization of women now that the
Oh,
men have gone to war and the women are doing men's jobs and what kind of women will the men come home to? And a prime example of this is Mr. Harvey's baseball league for girls. What is he doing? So silly. So Dottie and Kit make the same team, the Rockford Peaches. There's one woman, bless her, named Shirley, who can't read. Like she's kind of just lingering by the. They put up like rosters of everyone who's made the teams, and she's just sort of lingering. And then this other woman, Helen, helps her, and she has also made the Rockford Peaches. So I'll just kind of go through. So Helen is played by the actress Anne Ramsey. She, I think, one of her big things. She was on the show Mad About You in the '90s for
right.
a long
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
But she also was like had small parts in movies. Like she was in the Mark Wahlberg Planet of the Apes. I think probably at the beginning when he's still in the
Oh, yeah.
spaceship. Marla is played by Megan Kavanaugh. She was also in Robin Hood Men in Tights, which I think is the other thing I know her best from besides this. She's like the sort of lady in waiting to Maid Marian in Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Oh, I
Uh,
forgot about that. Okay.
but she's also in Junior, For Richer, or For Poorer, Miss Congeniality too. Shirley, who's the woman who couldn't read, she is played by Anne Cusack, who is the sister of John and Joan Cusack. So she's perhaps like the less famous of the Cusack siblings, but she's had a ton of like TV guest roles. She's been in a couple movies, Multiplicity, The Informant. She did one of her guest roles was on Criminal Minds. I think she was the mother of a
Ooh.
missing child.
Oh, okay. She didn't play a psycho killer?
She did not. She did not.
Okay. Gotcha.
A couple other people that we'll meet. There's one woman named Betty, whose nickname is Betty Spaghetti. She's played by Tracy Reiner, who is actually Penny Marshall's daughter, who she was with Rob Reiner, the director, for a while, and he adopted her, so that's why her last name is Reiner. She's made cameos in a lot of her movies, but she has like small parts in a ton of things. When Harry Met Sally, Apollo 13, That Thing You Do, Princess Diaries. So like her family, she's got good connections, right? Like she's got Penny
I was
Marshall,
going to say,
Rob
yeah.
Reiner, and Gary Marshall. So basically anything one of the three of them has made, she has a part in it. Which,
Hey, steady work.
you
You,
know,
you know?
Nepo baby life, man.
That's right. Yes.
One of the other characters, her name is Evelyn, who we'll meet more later. She's played by the actress Biddy Schramm, and I think her biggest role besides this was on the show Monk. And then there's a player named Alice, played by Renee Coleman, but it doesn't look like she was in much of anything besides this. So, anyways, now we have the Rockford Peaches, and they get to see their uniforms for the first time. And a woman comes out modeling it, and they are short dresses. And they're like, we can't play baseball in these dresses. Like, how are we supposed to slide? And Dottie is a catcher. She's like, how am I supposed to squat in this
Yeah. In this.
dress?
Because
And
it's short.
yeah, it's short. They have the socks up to their knees, but we're showing a lot of thigh here. And
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Lowenstein is basically like, you will play baseball in this or you will not play baseball in this league. So they're like, well,
Yeah.
okay. And they have a lot of rules. They have to be very like ladylike, no drinking, no men. May, which is Madonna's character, almost leaves at this point, but Doris kind of pulls her back. Then they have to go have like etiquette lessons, and they all sort of get like they get makeovers if they need them. And once again, the woman's like going through and saying what everybody needs. Somebody needs their eyebrows plucked. A bunch of them, like Dottie and Kit, she's like, oh, you're beautiful. And like Ellen Sue, like she's another player, but the her name wasn't blue on Wikipedia, so I don't know if that actress was in anything
I know.
else.
I don't know who. Yeah. So,
But
um,
anyways, like they're beautiful. But once again, she gets to Marla Hooch at the end of the thing, and she's like, "Oh God, just like comb her hair." Like, geez.
I know. And actually, we see later on in the movie, they definitely planed her up. They,
Yes.
you know, But
That's a running gag throughout the movie.
throughout the movie, because I do like the lady goes, "What do you suggest?" He goes, "A lot of night games."
Yes.
So
Yes. Um, and then well, the teams need coaches, right? So one of the guys that ran the guy that ran tryouts is going to coach the Racine Bells, but the Rockford Peaches need a coach. So Mr. Harvey meets with Jimmy Dugan, who is played by Tom Hanks, and Jimmy Dugan is was a former Chicago Cub. I'm using air quotes because like it would be
we
the
don't know if they
Chicago
were the
Cubs, but
Cubs,
they
but
don't, they're
yeah,
using made up names for like copyright reasons, I guess. Um, so he had played and been very successful playing for Mr. Harvey, and now he wants him to manage one of the teams. And Jimmy at this point is not doing well. He's a drunk. He's definitely obviously sustained some like physical injuries that jeopardize his ability to play baseball, but he has coped with that via alcohol. Like he talks about like hurting his leg because I think Mr. Harvey brings up his hurt leg and he's like, I was escaping from a fire. And Mr. Harvey was like, that you started
started,
in a
yeah.
hotel.
Which he had to pay
He had
for.
to pay for.
Mr. Harvey had to pay for, yeah. So
Yeah. And so he wants him to this is a way to like get publicity for the league basically because he's like all you have to
right,
do you just step on the field, wave your hat at the beginning of a game, like people will be excited to see you and there you go. And Jimmy is like insulted because he's like women are not like ball players. Women
right.
are like who you sleep with after the game basically, which is
That was his quote. Yeah, you're right. He goes,
yes.
yeah, girls are for sleeping with after the game, not for
Yeah.
coaching.
Yes. He says that a little bit later, but like it's what a
Yeah,
lovely view on women. But that's his vibe. He's like insulted basically by being offered this job.
oh
So
yeah,
then it's time for the first game, and he does show up, but he shows up wasted, does not speak to anyone, and then takes the longest pee you've ever observed in front of the women. And like May is timing it. And it seems like they're
right. Yeah,
maybe taking some bets on this, how long he's going to be peeing.
yeah, because she's looking at a watch, like
Yes.
seeing how long. And
And
you think he's
then,
done a couple of times, and then
but
it
he keeps
keeps
going.
going.
It's almost
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah.
Uh, oh my God, this poor woman. One of the girls, it's either Helen or Betty has a baseball card that was their husband's. I think it might be Betty's, but like Helen tries to get him to sign it because Betty was like too shy or whatever. But it's her husband's, and she's like, okay, don't mess it up. Like my husband will be so mad. And they are like, Mr. Dugan, will you sign this? Like my husband's a huge fan, and he rips it up.
Oh no, just yeah, just being an asshole.
Right. And then he leaves. He has not given them a lineup. He has not done any coaching. So then they're all arguing and like, I want to play this, I want to play that, blah, 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 blah. And then Dottie's like, okay, stop. And she comes up with it. And it's funny because the first people that started arguing were May and Doris about who's going to play center field. And Dottie goes, okay, lead off May playing center field. And May's like, oh, she's good.
Yeah.
Jimmy does come out to do his little cap wave at the beginning of the game when he's introduced. And that is pretty much all he does. He basically sits on the bench and goes to sleep.
Right.
Uh,
He's pretty hammered.
yeah,
So
he occasionally, as Mr. Lowenstein says later, like makes the great effort to scratch his balls throughout the game, and that's about what we get from him. As the game starts, there's a man who's kind of walking around on top of the dugout, making fun of the women, like, "Oh, look at me, I'm a girl playing baseball." And Ellen Sue hits him with a ball, and she's like, "Oh no, I didn't mean to,"
yeah, it slipped.
which he deserves. And they're doing really well. Like these women are good at baseball. We see like Dottie hit a home run. And it's funny because the announcer is like, "Oh, like what will Jimmy Dugan like have her do?" And then she like it was like 3-0 or whatever, right? 3 balls, no strikes. And they're like, "Oh, what will her manager Jimmy have her do? He is such a great baseball mind." And she swings on the next one and hits a home run and he's like, "What great strategy from Jimmy Dugan." And it's like Jimmy Dugan is passed out.
Right. Yeah, he has no idea what's going on.
Yeah. And like we said at the end of the game, Mr. Lowenstein confronts him. He's like, "You were passed out the whole time." And Jimmy's this is when he says, "I don't have ball players, I have girls. Girls are what you sleep with." After the game, and he spits on Mr. Lowenstein's shoes. A nice big old loogie.
But it's chewing tobacco.
It's dip, yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's
yeah.
just to say that this isn't just like a normal, just like it's like bleh, like
Uh,
a big old
oh yeah,
wad.
gets rid of his wad. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
and I
And
like
it's
where he says, Jimmy, if we paid you a little more money, could you be more disgusting? And he says, well, I could certainly use the money.
so then we see a little advertising that relates to the league, and the commercials are just focusing on how they're still like pretty and doing their womanly duties, right? Like one woman hits a triple and like powders her nose, then one woman, I think Helen, they're like, "Oh, she's great at baseball, but she can also make a beautiful cup of coffee." And she's like pouring coffee for like the umpires.
I know. It's like when
It's
they talk about
ridiculous.
Betty makes spaghetti and bakes or whatever,
Oh yeah, and then it
like
shows her
Betty
like
spaghetti.
knitting and stuff, and they were talking about how pretty they are, like
Yeah.
pretty Dottie Hinson, like she gives like Betty Grable a run for her money, and then Marla is like 10 miles away from the camera, and they're like, "And here is Marla Hooch, isn't she great?" But you
Yeah.
can't see her; she's so far away.
I know she's just out there waving like in the middle of the outfield, but yeah, you can't even see what
Right?
it is. You can barely recognize it's a woman, much less a
Yeah,
person. So
that running
yeah,
gag.
yeah,
Speaking of womanly duties, so Evelyn, she comes up to Jimmy Dugan and she's like, "Mr. Dugan, like basically her deadbeat husband can't watch their demon child. So he says you have to take him on the road because he distracts him from looking at the want ads."
yeah, right.
And she's like, and what's funny is like she's like, "No, he's my son is so nice and well behaved. He'll give us no problems." Cut two. This kid's on the bus and he's a terror. To the point that the bus driver
Stillwell.
pulls over, Stillwell Angel, Stillwell Devil. The bus driver pulls over on the side of the road and says, "I quit." And he just is walking down the highway.
And they're in the middle of nowhere. It's like, you sit
Yes.
there and you think, you couldn't have stopped in town. No, it's gotten so bad where he says, screw this. I'm 50 miles away from civilization. I'm leaving. I'm not doing this anymore.
Hmm. Yeah. So their chaperone tries to go. They all have a chaperone, obviously, because they're ladies and they have to make sure that they stay in line. And she goes to try to chase him down, and Miss Cuthbert is her name. And he won't come back, and then she tries to wake up Jimmy, who is again passed out drunk, and as she gets close to him, he immediately grabs her and starts kissing her, and they both he wakes up and they're both like, "Ah," and he like washes his mouth out with booze.
I don't think it was a good experience for either one.
A mess, a mess. So they like stay in this like house. I guess they stay in these like rooming houses, I guess, when they're
I
in
guess,
town.
yeah.
So in this one, they give her something. The women on the team give Miss Cuthbert something that has her sicker than the doctor has ever seen a person.
Yeah, more
So
violently ill, and in 43 years of medicine, I've never
yes.
seen anything this bad.
And they sneak out to a club, and
The Sud Bucket.
the
Suds Bucket.
Suds bucket, yeah. And May and Doris are out there swing dancing, especially May. She's doing the full like swing dancing, like Lindy Hop thing that you think of with people being flipped around and pulled through legs and
Yeah.
stuff. And everybody seems to be having fun there. Kit's having fun, and Dottie gets driven there by a child who then wants to like sleep with her. Like he's so much shorter than her.
I know, but he goes, yeah, how about we go in the back seat and you make a man out of me? And she goes, how about if I slap you around a little? He goes, can't we do both?
My God, right? I was like,
I know, perv. And you're right, he's what, probably 15 years old, if that. So,
mm-hmm.
but it was funny. It was,
Yeah. So But Dottie goes because Mr. Lowenstein is apparently coming, so she goes to get them all to come back home so they don't get caught and kicked out of the league. And the last person she has to gather is Marla, who is drunk and singing to a guy she's met. She's singing "It Had to Be You," and the band is not thrilled. They all look pained because she's not doing great, but she gets her out. And then, we get some kind of little slices of life. They go to church, and
Yeah.
whatever May says, May, whose nickname is All the Way May, whatever she says in her confessional has the priest dropping his Bible multiple times and coming out sweating.
Yeah. Even Doris goes, "What did you tell him?" "Everything."
So,
I have
at the
to say,
next,
I think Madonna was pretty funny in this.
she is
So,
really funny. She's really funny. I'm also very impressed with the way that her hat stays on because it's like vertical. Like
oh,
she
I
must just have
know.
it pinned
Yeah,
to the back of her head
that's the
because
only thing I can think of. Yeah,
it's like vertical. It
either
doesn't feel
bobby
practical.
pins or
Hmm.
I know. Yeah, but it stayed. Yeah, it stays like built up. So
Hmm. Yeah. But she is her and like Rosie O'Donnell are like really funny together, like as a duo in this movie.
they are. Yeah.
Um, at the next game, Jimmy finally decides to coach a little bit since Dottie's been coaching, but he like then like Marla's up to bat and Dottie's giving her the signal to bunt, and he's like, no, 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 we shouldn't bunt. She should like hit. And so they're both like giving signals, and Marla keeps like calling for time and like leaving the box and like, coming back, and then she's like, oh wait, God. She eventually like follows. She hits the ball. She swings away. She doesn't do a bunt, and she does get a hit. So then Dottie's kind of like, okay, all right, you got it. Like, all you, man. They're on the bus to the next city again. They're all interacting. May is teaching Shirley to read via the trashiest romance novel. Someone's like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And she's like, "She's reading, isn't she?"
Reading. Yeah, and then she like they read through the part, and May goes, "Oh, it gets really good after
Oh
this."
yeah, well,
It's
because
like,
she says the next word is like breast, and Shirley's like, "Oh my God," like she's scandalized by that, and May's like, "Oh yeah, it's about to get really good. Keep going."
yeah, so, yeah,
Mhm. Evelyn's writing a song about them, which we hear later. Doris shows everyone her boyfriend who is mean to her, but she tolerates it because everyone says she's like not feminine enough because she like likes baseball. But she's like, hey, she's like realizing that that's like not the case with this league. She's like, oh, like we're all women who play baseball. Like maybe that's okay. And you don't have to have a mean boyfriend. And because she also then gets like a fan club, like those all those dorky guys with the glasses are like following them for
I
her,
know,
for
really.
Doris.
Yeah, for Doris, yeah, and she's like, "What?"
Mhm. She's like, me?
Yeah.
Um, and then at the next game, we get the line. So Evelyn comes off the field and she doesn't use the cutoff man when she's trying to throw in from out the outfield. That is her issue. And he says he is like letting her have it. He does say the line. This is another funny one. Use your head. It's the lump 3 feet above your ass, which is funny.
Yeah,
And then she
and it
starts to
comes back later in the movie.
It sure does. And then she starts to cry. And he's like, are you crying? No, no, there's no crying. There's no crying in baseball. Which I think is like has to be
That's a
like one
good
of her
Tom
most quoted
Hanks, by the
lines.
way.
Thank you.
Oh
I
yeah,
just
for
I
sure.
love the delivery of like the whole like all of it. Like in context, it's so much funnier.
Right.
She's like when he's like, are you crying?
Yeah, and just his like his outrage, and then the story he tells,
Yes.
about when his manager, you know, said something to him after his parents had come down to watch him play and stuff. And it's
Yeah.
like, did I cry? No, I didn't cry. Because you know why? Because there's no crying in baseball.
Yes. So somehow if you've heard that and you didn't know the context, that's what it's from.
Yeah, come on, people. Yeah, this is the
Get with
movie.
it.
This is where it started. So
Yes. Also, then the ump comes over to be like, "What's happening?" Because he's yelling, and Jimmy tells him. This part makes me laugh so much too. He says, "He says to the ump, has anyone ever told you look like a penis with a little hat on?" And the ump is like, "What?" And he ejects him. And actually, the team is really happy. They're like applauding. His own
I
players are
know they're
applauding
like
him being ejected. They're like, "Get out."
being thrown out of the game. I know that's funny.
Yes. They also learn that attendance is pretty low. And I mean, you can see it. So they have to kind of gin up enthusiasm, and they have a photographer from Life magazine there, and Mr. Lowenstein's trying to get them to do a story on Dottie. And of course, Kit is like, "Oh, and like me," and they're like, "Well, mention that you're her sister, and you only are in here because she agreed to do it."
Right? Yeah, like let's get that inferiority complex a little stronger.
Right, right. Also, I don't think I mentioned, but Kit is played by Lori Petty, who was in Tank Girl, Free Willy, Point Break, and most recently Orange is the New Black. She was a character on that show. So,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah.
Okay.
So they're talking about the league might be shut down, basically, if they don't get their numbers up. And May, I think especially, is really upset because she was sort of like a dancer. They called her a taxi dancer. I don't really know what that is. It sounds like kind of
Taxi dancer.
like a go-go dancer
They
kind of thing.
they had dance clubs back in the day, and men, if they didn't have they would go to these places and they would pay. It was 10 cents a dance, and
Mm-hmm.
they would dance with these men for a dime
Mm-hmm.
basically, and then for a song, and then that's how they made their money. But they were called taxi dancers. So
Interesting.
because
Okay.
men would pay to dance with them, and usually they were attractive, or and these were guys who were losers,
Mm,
basically, or
yeah.
lonely and stuff. And then so and you could see she's very upset about having to go back to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, they start kind of trying to do what they can to bring some attention. So during that game, Dottie's going to catch a pop-up foul ball. As I mentioned, she's the catcher, and she drops into a split to do it. And
And the life photographer snaps a photo.
yes, and it's the front page of Life magazine, of course. But then you get like all these things like catch a foul for a kiss, and like there's all these newspaper articles and all these little things like Doris catches a foul ball over the wall and takes somebody's hot dog, and like they're catching a ball in the cap. And
Yeah.
May's like May's like, what if I like tripped and my top came open to reveal my bosoms, and Doris is like, "You think there's a man in this country that hasn't seen your bosoms?"
I thought that was. It's like really, yeah. That's not a big deal, May.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Oh, been there,
yeah.
done that, May.
That's not newsworthy. Yeah.
No.
So
I also love this moment. It's a very, very small moment, but I think it's important. A ball kind of goes down like over the fence, and there's a black family there, and Dottie's waiting for the woman to throw the ball back to her, but she actually throws it over Dottie's head to Ellen Sue, like super far. And Ellen Sue takes her hand out of her glove and is like, "Ow."
yeah.
So this lady has power. And I think it is just
Uh
like
huh.
showing like, "Oh, look at this advancement for women." But it's just white women in the league, right? So there are black women that
It's
obviously could be playing, but were not afforded the opportunity.
just like men. There was
Yes.
black men couldn't play in in the Major League Baseball. They had their own leagues. The
Hmm.
Negro leagues, but yeah, and I even wrote that a nod to the African American women who could play, should have been allowed to play, but weren't allowed to play at that time.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, she had skill. She could throw
Yes, clearly, clearly, she didn't need the
clearly.
relay man. She could have played
It,
Evelyn's
it,
spot in outfield.
it, that's right. She
She
didn't
didn't
need the
need the
cutoff
cutoff
man.
man. Um,
Yeah. So
a few things. Marla Hooch gets married. See, everybody was dogging Marla, but she found that man in that bar that she was singing "It Had to Be You Too," and he was the one because they get married. They leave for the season. I do love the touch that like instead of like just cans tied to the back of the car, it's cleats.
yeah, that's cute. So
Um,
and Marla looks very pretty in her wedding dress.
she
So she looks very.
does.
Her hair's all made, and
Hmm.
all. I'm sure they they did a lot to make Marla look a lot plainer than what she really is.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
but yeah, she looks very nice and very happy.
Yeah. Then we just get more highlights from games. All these things happening,
Mm-hmm.
including Alice sliding in the skirt and getting the most
Mm.
horrible giant, like bruised raspberry combo on her thigh that looks
Oh,
so painful.
oh,
Like they're icing it and they take it off, and it's just like, oh God.
oh! Jimmy even takes a picture of it. He goes, "Oh yeah, that's a keeper." You know, it's like
Yes.
it,
Even he's
the
impressed.
even he's impressed. The makeup job is good, and it's huge. It covers like most of her thigh. So,
And I think it's also becoming clear like Dottie is like the star. And even she and Jimmy are developing a better working relationship. Like
mm-hmm.
they're sitting on the bench and he gives her some of his dip, some of his chewing tobacco. And he even compliments her spitting technique.
Yeah, yeah, that
Um
sounded good. You know.
yeah. So on the bus, she shows him a picture of her husband. Her husband's name is Bob. He's played by Bill Pullman. Bill Pullman was in Independence Day, While You Were Sleeping, Casper, Lake Placid, Spaceballs, lots of
Oh yeah,
things.
yep.
She also talks about she usually would get a letter from him once a week, but she hasn't gotten one in a few weeks, so she's like worried. And Jimmy's like,
Hmm.
he's like in a war. He's just like busy. He just hasn't had a chance. Like, don't worry about it.
Right.
But then he does say something about like, well, you'd know if something went wrong because you get a telegram from the War Department. She's like, I don't even want to like think about that. Don't even like bring that up.
Right.
And we do see it later, unfortunately. And then Jimmy talks about why he's not serving, and uh he's not in the army because he has no cartilage in his knee from
Hmm.
playing. And I know that there was a quote in this scene that you said stuck out to you.
Yeah. He said that, yeah, his knee doesn't work, but his trigger finger, he says the finger, that he could shoot with is fine. And he says to her, he goes, "How did I get so useless so fast?" It's like he's still a relatively young man,
Mm-hmm.
in this movie. And then he's washed up as a ball player. He's washed up, he can't even get into the military, and he
Mm-hmm.
just feels like he's useless. He doesn't have anything to contribute. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that plays into their further conversation because he says, okay, like when Bob comes back from the war, are you going to stop playing baseball? And she says, yes. And he's like, but you love it. Like, you're really good. Like, you're the best player in the league.
mm-hmm.
So it's like, because it seems like for him, it's like he would still be playing if he could. And she could keep playing, but she's going to like just give it up,
Right,
even though
just
she
let it go.
obviously loves it and is really good at it. So it seems he's like, that would be sort of a real loss. Um,
Mm-hmm.
she also does make him drink a Coke instead of his booze. So she's trying.
And I love his reaction when he drinks it. It's like, boy, that's refreshing. It's like,
Yes.
making fun about, how that's not really a substitute for his drink, for his liquor.
Yeah.
So,
We get sort of more conflict building as we're nearing the end of the season. This is the last game to get them into the playoffs, which is funny that there's four teams.
I know it's like,
No,
wouldn't
everybody
everybody get in the
doesn't make
playoffs?
right.
I know.
Um,
Yeah. I wondered about that too. So,
yeah.
and then Jimmy is all pumped up because he read his contract.
Yes, if they win the World Series, he gets a bonus.
Bonus.
So,
Yeah.
but this last game before the playoffs, Kit's a pitcher and she's struggling. And the game's almost over. They need to get like one out, basically. And Kit's like, I can do it.
Hmm.
Jimmy's like, Jimmy wants to pull her, but Kit's trying to plead her case. And he asks Dottie what she thinks. And Dottie at first is like, let her give it a try, basically. Like, she says
Yeah.
she can do it, she can do it.
She's battling.
She's battling,
She's
yes.
yeah.
And Jimmy's like, no. Like, what do you really think? And Dottie's like, take her out. I think she says she's throwing grapefruits or
Yeah,
something.
she's done. Yeah, yeah.
You gotta take her out. She's done. And Kit is pissed. Pissed off. There's
Yep.
another moment later that we see like a reaction to like something with Dottie and like her like she's a little bit of a hothead generally, but like her reactions to Dottie are like it's like she's like 5 years old again.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, they end up winning the game. Betty Spaghetti comes in to finish the pitching, and she gets the out. They're in the playoffs, whatever that means.
Right. Home field advantage, I don't know. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I would think that, yeah, the all four would, play and then, the play and then the two winning teams go into the World Series or whatever. So,
right. Who knows? But um,
whatever.
yeah. Meanwhile, the Mr. Harvey is saying that the war's nearing its end. The boys are going to be back. We don't need this league anymore. But Mr. Lowenstein is like, no, but like they're all here playing and like they're really good. Like he wants to keep it going. And Mr. Harvey's like, yeah, whatever. No. He's like, well, Mr. Harvey, he's basically like, I'm gonna do it whether you like it or not.
Right.
After the game, Kit is like pouting and Doris makes fun of her. Doris makes fun of her pitching at the end of the game. And they end up fighting because Kit like throws something at her and then Doris throws water on her and then they end up fighting. And Jimmy has to put Kit in a cold shower. And even then she's like like calm down, girl, jeez. But Kit's upset. She feels overshadowed by Dottie once again. So Dottie's like, I'll just quit. I'll just quit. And Mr. Lowenstein is like, no, 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 because she is the best and most popular player in the league. So he's like, well, we can do a trade. Like, she doesn't say like why she's quitting at first, because he's like, oh, is it May? I can sense some friction between you and May. We can trade her somewhere else. And she's like, she basically like trade me somewhere else. And then back at the house they're staying at, Kit comes stomping in, grabs a baseball, and throws it through a window, like right above Dottie's head, and calls her a bitch. And she says that Kit got traded to Racine. And Dottie's like, oh no, like I wanted to be traded. And Kit's like, of course they weren't going to trade you. Like you're everybody's like favorite. And Kit is mad at Dottie. She's basically like, you saw that I was doing good and you tried to kind of like hold me back. And Dottie at this point is like, you know what? Stop acting like everything is my fault. Like, I think she says, blow it out your ass. Like, get over it. There is a funny moment that like Helen at this point shows up. She's like, has anyone seen my red hat? And Dottie is like, piss on your hat. And Helen is like, well, that's uncalled for. Like she just strolled in because like all these other people are listening to the fight and she strolled in out of nowhere with like no context to what's happening and they're just like immediately hostile and she's like, I didn't even do anything.
I do like, yeah, where they were crowding around the doorway, listen to Kit and Dottie go at it, and then when
Yeah.
Dottie comes out, they all just like sort of look
Yeah.
away, It's
Oh,
like,
we weren't
oh no, no,
listening.
no, I wasn't listening to
We
you
just
all,
happened to
yeah,
be in
we
this
just happened to
hallway.
be, yeah, standing around, waiting for you to come out, or whatever. So,
Yeah. At the next game, so now it's like whatever, it's playoffs, I guess. At the next game, they do sing the song that Evelyn wrote. I forget all the words. It's like the time has come
it
for
starts out
one.
batter up,
Oh yes, batter
batter up.
up, hear that call. The time has come for one and all. And they get some good harmonies here. To
Hmm.
play ball, we are members of the All American League. We come from cities near and far. We got Canadians, woo, Irish and Swedes. We're all for one, we're one for all, we're all American. There we go. That's off the dome. Um,
That's pretty good. That's real good.
it gets stuck
Yeah,
in my head whenever I
I just
watch it.
remembered, batter up. So,
It gets stuck in my head every time I watch it.
well, it's a catchy tune. So,
Yes. Shout out to Evelyn playing her little ukulele. I also love that Stillwell is in the locker room with them, but he's like covering his eyes and like slightly taking peeks at times.
because they're all getting dressed for the game, and they're all, they're like in their underwear, and
Yeah.
I mean, they're not naked, but
Yeah.
it's Stillwell. Yeah, I wondered about that. You would have thought, I mean, because Stillwell's probably what, 9 or 10 years old,
Yeah.
maybe.
Maybe.
He's not like 4 or 5, because
Yeah. He's old enough to know.
um,
Uh,
yeah. I would have
and
thought Jimmy
then,
would have said, no, 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 you're not in the locker room. So
well, speaking of Jimmy, first of all, he comes rolling in, smacks the chaperone lady on the butt, and when he comes in, he's like, "Oh man, you all are already dressed."
he has another great line, by the way. By the way, he tells the chaperone, by the way, I loved you in Wizard of Oz.
She does look like, I was thinking about that the whole movie. She looks like Mrs. Gulch or whatever.
She looks like the Wicked Witch, doesn't she? So,
Yes.
but I swear to God, that is so funny. When I first saw this, and he came out with that, I just remember laughing. It was
It
like,
is
oh
really
my
funny
God,
because it is true when you watch it. Like when I looked at, I thought it was going to be the same person, but it
she
wasn't.
looks like, exactly. So anyway,
Even though
so I
obviously
just,
that woman
yeah.
was probably dead by the time this movie came out, but yeah, no. So this is when he says like, "Oh, if you guys like if we get to the World Series and win, like I get a bonus, so like let's go." So the vibe is like
Right.
jovial until a gentleman from the War Department comes in with a telegram. And this guy is so inept. He's standing there with the clipboard. He's like, "Oh, wait, who is this for? Oh, shoot, I wish they would just give me the names. Well, I'm gonna have to go back and figure it out." And Jimmy is like, "Give me the envelope." The guy's like, "You can this is official business." And he just takes it. He's like, "Give me the envelope," and shoves the guy out. And Jimmy just opens it. And it's so like tense, right? Because a lot of these women have
Oh,
husbands that are serving.
evidently.
And he's like walking and you don't know who it's for because he's kind of like slowly like walking past all these women and it seems like he's gonna stop at Dottie, but right next to her is Betty and he hands it to her and he's like, "I'm so sorry, Betty," and she just like dissolves into sobs. I will say to his credit, Jimmy is very like sweet to her. He like pulls her up and hugs her, and like one of the other women goes to get uh the chaperone. I want to call
The
her Miss Gulch. Now I forget her actual Miss Cuthbert.
the Wicked Witch.
Yeah, they go get her and like Jimmy and her kind of like escort her out. Um and then that night Dottie is in her room like crying because I imagine like that was very scary for her and she's also like a little bit relieved, but then you kind of feel bad about feeling relieved because like your friend's husband just died. And then there's a knock on the door and it opens and it's her husband. It's Bob
The
Henson.
President of the United States.
Yes, to give her a very rousing motivational speech before she goes to fight some aliens. But no, it is her husband, Bill Pullman, Bob Henson. He's got a cane. He got shot in the foot by a sniper, so not a very good sniper, I guess. But he's otherwise in one piece, so good for him. And then the next day, the team is leaving to go play in the World Series. And Dottie was just gonna like leave with Bob and not say anything, I guess, which is kind of messed up. I'm just saying. Also, meanwhile, some little boys approach Jimmy and ask him to sign a baseball, and he writes, "Avoid the clap, Jimmy Dugan." And he's like, "Hey, that's good advice."
It's like, hey, this is good stuff here. This is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
These are precious pearls of wisdom. So
Yeah. And Jimmy is like upset that she's leaving because again, she was gonna leave and not tell him, which is messed up. You're on a team. And Jimmy's kind of like saying like you're gonna regret leaving. And Dottie's like, it just got too hard. And I like this line. This line stood out to me this time. And he said, it's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great.
to me, this is the most memorable line of the movie.
It's
It
the
it
most profound for sure.
it boils down to, I think, anything that anyone undertakes, any endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
If it was easy, everybody could do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the hard that makes it great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and the way he delivers it too. So I agree. Not that you need my agreement, but to me, yeah, this was the defining moment of the movie. It's about how he feels about this game.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think it's one that like hadn't like when I was a kid, like didn't I didn't ever think much about, but like as an adult watching it, I think that's like a line that really resonates. So,
And he talks about how he drank away 5 years of his career and
hmm,
what he wouldn't give to have one day back, just to have
yeah.
one day.
And once again, as they talked about earlier, she's just like willingly giving it up.
Right.
Mm,
So yeah, that's yeah. To me, that's yeah. I agree wholeheartedly that about your take on that. That's a meaningful line. So
yeah. So, the World Series then is the Racine Bells, which is the team that Kit got traded to, versus the Rockford Peaches. And it's you see from kind of like newspaper headlines that it's a very tight back and forth series, and they take it all the way to game 7. Alice has been playing catcher, and then all of a sudden, surprise, guess who's back? It's Dottie Hinson. Like he's talking to the catcher, like someone is catching as the pitcher warms up, and he's talking to them as if it's Alice, and then she stands up and it's Dottie. And he's for a minute like, well, you're not on the team. You quit. So who said you could play? And she's like, okay, do you want me to not play? And he's like, well, no, I do want you to play. But like for a minute, he's like, who said you could be here?
what? And then he goes like he says, "Well, Alice has been playing these last 6 games," and he goes, "She's doing okay." And they pan over to Alice, and Alice is covered in bruises, I guess, where
Alice
she's been
is
hit by balls.
struggling.
And
Also,
you
apparently,
could
she
look.
stinks because she won't change her socks because she's superstitious.
Oh, but she looks beat up, the poor thing. She looks like she's been in a prize fight as opposed to playing baseball
She
for
looks like she just
playing
came back from
catcher.
the war.
Uh, and he's, well, yeah, you're already dressed, so
Yeah, okay, fine, you can play. I also love this moment that Stillwell is taunting them. He's going, "You're gonna lose," and Jimmy throws a glove at him, and he just sort of like ends up kind of dazed and stumbling.
I love it. He goes, got him.
And Evelyn's like, "It's okay, he's okay." And so it's a good game, right? It's a tight game. It's back and forth. Dottie gets a big hit off Kit to take the lead. It's an RBI. And Kit is like incensed. Like she's like crying and like hyperventilating. Like you could see her on the bench. Like she's freaking out. And like eventually it's like time for her to bat. Like people in her team are like, girl, you gotta get up. Like you gotta go hit.
Mm.
And it's the end of the game, coming down to it. And Kit's up to bat. Ellen Sue's pitching. Dottie tells her high fastballs. She cannot hit them, but she cannot resist them. So throw high fastballs. But she does. She hits one. And she gets some big old whiff strikes though before that. This girl is swinging for the fences and missing hard. But then she finally gets a hit. And she's supposed to stop at third, but she keeps going. Evelyn does hit the cutoff man this time, which is Doris, and then Doris throws it home. And Dottie has the ball, and Kit is just running at her. She's blocking the base as you do, and Kit's just running at her. And this part, I'm like, makes me roll my eyes a little bit because I'm like, did she do this on purpose? Because Kit like trucks into Dottie. Dottie had the ball, but then of course as Dottie falls, it just like lightly rolls out of her hand as she hits the ground, and I'm like, girl, now you could have held on to that ball. Did you
Are
just try
you
to let
thinking
your
what I
sister win?
thought?
Yeah.
Mm, I wrote that down
I
too. I
wrote dot
thought,
dot dot.
did
I
Dottie
wrote
let her
BS.
score?
I wrote BS is what I wrote.
Because we'd seen earlier in the movie where Dottie had been plowed into by a couple of times, and then she held on to the ball. She
Yes,
would make
she
the
shows the
play, and
ball.
hold up the ball. Yeah.
Hmm. So the
So
fact that little Kit is gonna do that now, girl.
yeah, Kit weighs what, maybe 100 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah. Sorry, but like your sister needs to get over it. You're on a team. Even if you don't want to win for you as an individual, you have a team that wants to win. Anyways, the Racing Bells win. And I will say the people on the Peaches are nice to Dottie. They're like, "Oh, it's okay, Dottie. Like you did your best, blah blah blah." Because obviously, like Dottie did do a lot for the team, so they can't like really get on her about stuff. But Dottie and Kit do make up, at least in the aftermath, and in their way, right? With a little bit, you were blocking the whole bag. That's what I'm supposed to do. Their same sort of like bickering, and Kit's talking about like future seasons, and Dottie's like, "No, I'm going home. I want to have kids." And Kit's like, "But you can have kids like whenever. Like, don't you want to do this now?" And Dottie's like, "No, I don't need this." But Kit's gonna stay in like the Chicago area because she likes it. Her and some of the other girls are gonna stay there and get jobs, which is nice. She needs like her own thing separate from Dottie. So
Maybe she'll go
um,
work for Mr. Harvey and make Harvey bars so they can feed the
maybe,
cows.
yeah, yeah. Now that makes me think of like that episode of I Love Lucy. That's the girls are gonna be Lucy and Ethel like stuffing the chocolates with the chocolate conveyor belt. Um, Back to the present of the movie. So flash forward to when they're all old. Dottie kind of reconnects with all the other women, right? She like recognizes May and Doris, and they throw a ball at her, and she catches it. So they're like, "It is Dottie." And then there's some of the other women, Helen and Marla and Betty, and we learned that Stillwell is there. And he reminds everyone who he is by going, "Na na 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 na, you're gonna lose." He reveals that Evelyn, his mother, had died, and we also learn that Jimmy Dugan has died. Dottie tells one of the other women that her husband had just died over the winter, so it's kind of sad here at the end. It's very sort of like nostalgic, right? Because all these people that were important in this period have died. But Ira Lowenstein is there, and they actually say like you should cut the ribbon because like this league wouldn't have existed without you, and it wouldn't have gone on for all those years. And the scout Ernie is there too with a cigar once again, standing right next to his picture, and they all sing the song again. And Dottie and Kit get to have like another moment in the present, even though like it seems like they're not like estranged, like they're in touch, but I guess they just don't see each other that much. Because at the beginning, like Dottie's daughter is like, "Oh, maybe you'll see Aunt Kit there," and she's like, "Oh, she's always traveling with that husband of hers," and the daughter's like, "Well, he's nice. His name is Frank. Like you like him." So it seems like maybe they have their same dynamic. They just don't get to see each other quite as
As
much.
often. And the lady that plays Kit, the older Kit, does look a lot
Mm-hmm.
like Kit, the younger Kit, but and has her family, her grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's it is it. I wrote down that the last this scene it makes me smile and get emotional at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. It's heartwarming, but it's also it sort of it tugs at my heartstrings a little bit. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the women play. Dottie doesn't, but she watches them. But you do get a sense that she's like, maybe I should have kept playing.
what could have been
Yeah.
a little bit.
Because obviously,
It,
like, these other women still had children, right? Like, Kit had a whole family, and she stayed and played more. So, like,
and I was wondering when we see like the women playing at the end of it, are some of those actual from the actual league members that had played, or maybe they just got extras to play? Because some of them look like they really knew how to play baseball. I mean, maybe they did find people who had played later on in the league and got them together to play in this game.
yeah.
Uh,
65 the final week of shooting was during late October 91 in Cooperstown, New York, where 65 original AAGPBL members appeared in scenes recreating the induction of the league into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1988.
oh, nice. Um,
This is interesting. So originally, Penny Marshall wanted Demi Moore to play Dottie, but she was pregnant. when they made it.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
Then they cast
Well,
Deborah Winger,
hmm. I'd have
but
seen Deborah
she,
Winger more as Kit.
yeah, but she, and she was training, but she dropped out of the production 4 weeks before the start of filming, later saying that the casting of Madonna was her reason for dropping out.
She didn't get along with Madonna, maybe?
I don't know. I'm a little like, what did Madonna do? Maybe she like
I know.
thought she like wasn't like a real actor or something.
I
But I
don't
thought she
know.
was good. Like, did they have beef?
Oh, here. Oh, put the film's ensemble cast. It says I'm reading the same thing. I guess where the assistant baseball coach at USC put them all through 3 months of baseball camp
Mm-hmm.
before filming. So,
Oh, okay. So
huh.
she was saying, I guess she was saying that like it was going to be like, she says it was going to be like an Elvis film where it was like Elvis wasn't good at acting,
Mm.
but the point of it was that Elvis was in it.
Actually, I thought Madonna did a pretty good job, but
I think so too. So this honestly, Deborah Winger, it's giving a little bit of hater energy, and but honestly, like I'm glad it was Gina Davis because it's hard for me to imagine at this point anyone but Gina Davis.
I thought she was really good in this. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
as we later on in life we found out Gina Davis became an Olympic class archer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it is and was a good athlete. So
Yeah. She also formed an institute that aims for like gender equality and like parity in film and like representing like women better on film. So I wonder if like this contributed to that too. But
I would probably I would say so.
yeah, but it seems like they also got pretty rough and tumble making this movie. Like
Hmm.
people really were getting those like bruises and raspberries and breaking their nose and like getting injured.
Well, I guess
That's wild.
if you play long enough or play hard enough or whatever. So oh yeah, I broke her nose with a baseball mitt, and then oh, that bruise was real.
Oof.
The large bruise seen on Renee Coleman's thigh at one point in the movie was real. Oh my gosh, that was
That's
huge. I thought it was
awful.
makeup. Good
Ow.
Lord. Ow.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
That
Um,
is.
I'll also say that there was a series on Amazon Prime in like 2020 or 2022,
Mm-hmm.
but they were supposed to make more, but then like the writer's strike happened. So then they scrapped it. And I think that they pulled what was on there, but I think it's a little bit more, it's a series versus a movie, and I think it's a little more diverse. So it has like black characters included, and like
Oh,
some of the
okay.
women are like lesbians or whatever. So that's it was supposed to be, heard good things about it. I just never got to watch it. I don't know that it's available, but hopefully it would be. But but yeah, so that is A League of Their Own. I think it's a good movie. I think overall
Mm.
like a positive like feel good movie. Like Jim said, kind of the end does give you some definite feelings of like nostalgia and like thinking about times past and maybe what people missed out on and stuff. I think you can get a good emotional journey. You want some sibling dynamics. You want some funny lines from a drunken Tom Hanks. You want some baseball. You want some like gender stuff. You want some like World War II era stuff. You want some like dancing, Lindy Hop. It's all there.
And I think we see a few people who later on had really big careers. You know, Tom
Hmm.
Hanks was certainly popular at the time, and Gina Davis. I think I
Hmm.
don't know if she'd won her Oscar at this point or not for
The Accidental
as a
Tourist.
best supporting actress. But you know, Rosie O'Donnell had been in the Flintstones and stuff, but you know, and Bill Pullman and but a lot of the other people. But yeah, I think it was. But Penny Marshall does it, I think, with all of her movies. She brings a real level of credibility and
Mm-hmm.
believability to it, don't you think? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just there's you're not watching people act. It comes across as more real, and they really get into their characters, and she really fleshes out the characters, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that there's good like chemistry between the actors too that makes like the like Dottie and Kit and like we said like May and Doris and then eventually like Dottie and Jimmy, like all these dynamics and relationships feel
Mm-hmm.
like authentic and real.
Right. Jimmy and the a chaperone,
Yeah. Yes, yes. I mean, even the whole thing with the chaperone, right? That they're trying to sneak away and that he's kind of a lech and she's sort of this buttoned up woman and stuff. It creates some
Yeah,
good comic moments.
it does. So, and the costumes are great as
Mm-hmm.
far as
Hmm.
the period dress. They everything I think was done pretty. Not that I know what it was like back then, but it looked like pretty detailed and the the morals of the time and so on and so forth. So
Hmm.
the girls
Yeah.
couldn't drink. Sorry, the women couldn't drink, couldn't smoke. No men, like you said. But
Hmm.
but they were people like everybody else, and they had to because ball the men ball players were all got
That's what I
running
was gonna
around and
say.
it wasn't like, oh well, fellas, you can't have girls in your room and you can't drink, and that was half the guys were probably more than half the guys were either advertising cigarettes and or beer.
Hmm. They're
Probably
doing chewing
hey
tobacco while they're playing.
exactly. So it's like I get 60 hits a year because I drink Schlitz beer or whatever.
Right.
Whatever. So
Yeah.
good pick, good selection,
Thank you.
and good way to lead us off into hopefully a winning season for the Orioles this year. So
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
I
Let's go
know maybe if
O's.
we get Jimmy Dugan in there, and
Yeah.
you know
Brandon Hyde, maybe do some more drinking.
give him
Uh,
that Jimmy Dugan advice: avoid the clap.
yes, yes, exactly, exactly. But yeah, well, I hope everyone, we got a little bit nicer weather. It's a little bit warmer, sun's out longer, and now you can watch baseball. So I
There you
hope
go.
everyone can enjoy baseball season wherever you are. Well, I guess if you're in the United States, wherever you are in the United States, or perhaps in like Latin America or Asia.
I was going to say, yeah, Japan.
Yeah,
Baseball's big there. Is their season the same as the season here?
I have no
The
idea. I mean,
I don't either.
they're in the northern hemisphere too, so maybe.
Maybe because the weather would be the same, right?
Yeah.
It's springtime there in
Hmm.
Japan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I don't know, but wherever you are, enjoy some baseball. Find some, look it up. Over here, we are Let's Go O's. And yeah. Well, anything else you want to add about A League of Their Own?
no, I enjoyed it very much. It was nice seeing it again, and it gave me a good excuse to participate or not partake of John Lovett's and Jimmy Dugan's wisdoms, wit and wisdoms,
Excellent.
pithy sayings.
Of course. But tune into women's sports. The WNBA season starts in the summer. There's women's soccer on going on. Their season's happening. The NWSL, all sorts of things that you can check out. You can watch the like women's college softball World Series. You can watch all sorts of women's sports. So check them out because they're cool and they're very good.
I'm a big fan of women's professional golf. So if you don't follow the LPGA, I think you're missing out because got to tell you guys, we don't hit 340 yards. We hit more closely, not even to what the women play, but you can learn a lot by watching the women how skillful they are. So
Yeah. I feel like a lot of women's sports, like you can see a little bit more skill demonstrated at
it's not all
times.
power.
Yeah.
There's more skill and some expertise and some real shot making, especially in women's golf.
Yeah. I
it's
feel that way about women's basketball too. Like you get to see a lot
mm-hmm.
more kind of like good passing and movement and like kind of fundamental basketball versus like
Yeah.
let's carry and like try to shoot like half court threes like we're Steph Curry in the men's game. So
unless you're Caitlin Clark, then you can
Unless you're
plop
Caitlin
them in
Clark,
from anywhere.
yes, or Sabrina
So,
Ionescu, like
right.
then you're
So,
taking big shots. But yeah, sometimes men just like trying to truck each other down and flopping and stuff. So
oh yeah.
I
So
think
yeah, it's like, oh, let's take off at the top of the key and hit 5 or 6 steps and
yes, they all
then
think they're doing the Michael Jordan dunk at the end of Space Jam where you
exactly, yeah.
fly. Oh
Yeah,
man.
no, fellas, yeah, you're traveling. Yeah, they just don't call it anymore. So
Exactly. You can only take so you get only so many steps. But yeah, watch women's sports and
yeah,
watch this movie if you haven't, or if you haven't in a while. It's always just a fun one to check out, I think. Always something to enjoy.
exactly.
Well, thank you all for listening. Please subscribe wherever you're listening to this so you can make sure you get all of our episodes delivered right to you every Monday when we release them. Please rate, review, leave a comment, particularly if it's nice, or else we're going to put you under a cold shower like your Kit Keller. Get it together. There's no crying in podcasting. You can follow us on Instagram at Some of Our Parts Pod. You can see all the movies that we've talked about. We're covering quite a range, I think. You can also see little previews of what's to come and whatever else we decide to post, such as the picture of us in our League of Their Own Halloween costumes. So look out for that. And with that, bye bye.
Take care.